All right, we are live.
We are.
Another beautiful Saturday morning and another episode of the 𝗖𝗥 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗥 podcast. So this week I brought my friend Chad back.
Hi.
And it seems like our discussion for today is going to be about the episode is called Mental Hiccups when the depression fog hits. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about basically when things start going really well and then you just hit another freaking wall and what happens basically from there. So I know you've been dealing with this.
Oh yeah,
personally.
Most of my life, but even recently, it's definitely been exactly like that. Good waves, bad waves, you just have to keep rolling with it and keep surfing on. So
yeah, so I guess my first question for you, since we'll dig in, because like I said, one, you know I like to dig in on these podcasts.
I do.
And then two, it's like I know that you personally was going through some stuff, but I think it was around early August, if I remember right, where I think you started talking to me a little bit less. It was like after one of our trips back from Florida.
Yeah.
So let's dig into that. Like, what happened? Like, what was going on? And
so when we got back from Florida, which was an awesome trip, obviously you knew prior to us going on that trip, I was starting to get really sick. I had to take a lot of medicine just to do that trip, but we made it. It was awesome. When I got back, my roommate had contracted with COVID, and I tried to stay away from the place for a few days when I had gotten back, but then I still got it, and it was brutal. It was brutal. I know COVID's a real thing. It's just everybody gets hit different. Me having a weak immune system, I got really sick. It mentally messed with me because I couldn't eat. I couldn't hold food down. I slept all the time. I couldn't work out. I was just feeling like completely off. And so therefore, I tend to shut down. I don't talk to people. I just keep to myself, which is not a good thing. I've learned from that. But when you're feeling so sick, like you just look at your phone, like I don't even feel like watching anything. I just slept a lot. But, it was that fog. It was the mental hiccup of just feeling like, I had probably around 105 fever. I was just burning up and just feeling like crud. So when I feel like that, I don't usually want to talk to people. And even one of my best friends, I tend to get reclusive, and that's not a good thing. It's just difficult. Eventually I got better and I started moving around again and, started chatting more with my sponsor, one of our friends, and then started chatting with you more. It just, I shut down. I mean, even like my own family will try to reach out to me and I'm like one word responses. But even when I wasn't sick with COVID or even like times in the past, when I hit that depression, when I hit those waves, I just want to be left alone, which isn't always the best, but I've had to work really hard with my mental health over the years, finding coping mechanisms, finding things that would help me. And especially being in, the state of North Carolina, we have a lot of sun. There's a lot of beautiful just weather, scenery. I grew up near Seattle where it was a lot of rain, a lot of gray clouds, and it was really hard to find happiness. So I guess I just got so used to so many years of just living in that stagnant weather that the fog up here just kind of stayed, but I'm trying to work on that. I have great people like you who I can talk to, and just finding friends and finding other things, but working on not staying so reclusive and not just shutting down, because that's just what Chad does, and Chad needs to work on that. So
yeah, so and I knew you were sick, because I knew you had talked about that too, but I know probably the last 2 to 3 weeks, what was kind of like the turnaround point for you? Because I know you're slowly starting to get better.
Yeah.
But I mean, what was kind of like your mental wake up? Because I know when we talked a little bit, like some of it was about being sick, and then I remember some of it being like you mentioning, just having issues with like doubts again, and depression and all that stuff. Like where do you feel like that kind of came from?
like when I'm, not just with the sick, but when I am sick, I don't have the energy or the activities that I like to do because I don't have it in me, and I start to dwell. I get, I suffer from migraines, but nonetheless, it's just I couldn't be creative. I like being creative, whether it's with my poetry, photography, videos, painting, sculpting. I just didn't want to do anything. I found myself just in that slump where I just was just laying there all day long. I mean, I was sleeping for like 17, 18 hours a day. And you know me well enough to know, like, I'm usually up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, like, la, 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 la. And I just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I was losing weight because I couldn't eat. So just like everything was just shifting down and I just felt down. But once I started to feel better, I just started to kind of like, started to write a little bit. I started just kind of looking at, things that would inspire me, whether it's like with my Bible, or just having chapters and stuff to read with, uh, my Alcoholics Anonymous book that Kui has, or I don't know if I should say his name, but I meant whatever. But that helped. But I can honestly say what really helped fire me up to get kind of like back in motion was watching Kai's documentary. Um, just because it was so relative in my life with so many things, and just to see what he has gone through and to be where he's at now. And he's such an exceptional human being. He could have probably every right to be a very angry, bitter person because of what happened at a young age and just throughout, parts of his career and all that stuff. And as we both know, he is just the sweetest human being. And just to see how humble he is, it kind of helped ground me to get back into finding my smile again and to find just my own ways of just taking on each day, because every day is a blessing. And I was actually just talking to my neighbor out in the back deck, just about just how awesome the day is. He invited me to go to church tomorrow. He's the guy that usually hosts the men's meetings on Mondays.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so it's just one of those things where it's like just finding things to keep strong, and not just by yourself, but finding other people to work with and who are also, everybody goes through stuff. And, so it's just nice to find things and just kind of get reacclimated. So it's tough day by day, but as long as we can be tougher, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I feel that. And then I've been listening to, actually met, so I kind of met, I guess not really met for the first time. I already knew him, but hadn't seen him probably since I was like 15. But met a guy from back home when I was visiting, and it's been super cool because we've got a very similar spiritual walk, so we've been kind of sending stuff back and forth together.
Yeah.
But there is a podcast he sent me yesterday, and I knew that I kind of, because I've been kind of going through it the last like month or so.
Yeah.
Just dealing with like imposter syndrome, or feeling like, am I really going to be able to do this? Am I really going to measure up? Like, you get all of that, like, who am I kidding? Like, am I trying to be something like I'm not meant to? Like, just all this like crazy
self-doubt.
Yeah, all the crazy goofy stuff. Well, there's like a couple things that he had mentioned. This it was like a bishop that was speaking, but he had mentioned in the podcast, like, the first thing was pride, and that was kind of a big wake up call for me because going through, realizing like when you go through sobriety, like the biggest thing that they're trying to take away from you is your pride, because it kind of leads to the downfall of everything else that you do. Like whether you get trapped into temptation with lust, if you get trapped into envy, if you get trapped into, whatever, usually if you circle back to the root of it, it's always pride, because you feel like you either deserve more or you're trying to do something to help like your own image. So, and I realized like for me, a lot of my anxieties and stuff was actually coming from a point of where I was starting to lose focus on why I was originally doing this, which is to help, other people realize like that they can, they could do a lot of things. They're capable of a lot of things. And I was getting too focused back in on, my part in it. And like my ego was starting to get in the way. But one of the other things that he had talked about too, because I think at times, especially on like a spiritual journey, we get so wrapped up in thinking that, once you get started on this journey, everything's going to be good. Or even if it's good, it's not going to be as bad as it was.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to get any worse or anything like that. And one of the things that he had brought up in that podcast too is he mentioned the concept of like prosperity gospel. And it was like, if you serve God, like he will bless you by this. Yeah. And he talks about how he like really doesn't like that because it's not biblical. It doesn't really say anywhere in the Bible that like once you turn your life over and once you start, following this path that everything's going to be great or you're going to get blessed with wealth or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, what it more so should be is if you go through those rough times, whether it's a financial thing, whether it's a mental thing, whatever, it's not why am I going through this or why did he give me this or whether it's positive or negative, but it's, okay, this is a situation that I'm in. Like, how am I supposed to use this for something better?
Yeah.
So.
And I get that, and you and I both have similar backgrounds with our having parents that are, pastors or ministers and things like that. I've seen people who think that maybe once they get directed with God and stuff like that, that life will be a blessing. And it's kind of like somebody who gets sober, they find themselves drinking more coffee and like, yeah, I'm really great. This is awesome. It's like, but
just wait, Buttercup.
Yeah, it's like it's good, but it's not always going to be like having, Christmas morning as a kid with all the presents that you want. You're going to have tough times. And, my mom, she always talked about how, the people that really are for God aren't expecting him to just give them everything because, even though, Jesus gave up his life for us, we have to give up things, but we have to understand we're not just going to get everything. And we also, as people that are followers of the Lord and who are working and all that stuff, it's we're going to be hit even harder with things because we're not trying to be like the way of the world, but it's like we're like, why God, why me? And it's like, well, why not you? He gives us as much as we can handle, but he knows how much we can handle. We don't always know that because we just, we're on this earth. We have so many different things that go on in this world where it's just like good and bad and crummy and it's just like day by day. But as long as we just keep finding a purpose and keep trying to keep our focus with him, it's great things happen. It's kind of like I've told you before, one of my favorite things from my sober time app, it's like sobriety is a journey, not a destination. Kind of like your walk with the Lord. It's a journey. Eventually there will be a destination in the end, but we're on this earth for however long we're supposed to be. We could be 50 years, 70 years, 100 years old, but enjoy the journey the best you can. Even with bad times, remember it's not always going to be that way.
Yeah. And one of the quotes, so I used to use that quote all the time, and I kind of like as a different perspective. So like God will never give you more than you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually realized, at least kind of through some of the last couple months of my studying, that I call complete BS on that. And the reason that I say that is because if he never gives you more than you can handle, you're never going to have to rely on more than you.
Mm.
So he will purposely, I think, give you way more than you can handle. So you're in over your head. So that way you have to get to a point where you're humbled and you're just like, I'm not capable of managing all this by myself.
I definitely understand. Like it, exceeds max capacity for your own workload, but that's how we grow. It's like, somebody, we'll talk about the gym. It's like somebody who wants to hit a PR. They have to work at it. They have to constantly work at it and do all the things, whether it's the eating and the training, the rest, but they have to work at it. Not everybody's like, somebody like, I want to deadlift 500 pounds, but all they can do right now is 225. Well, eventually you'll get there and you'll build up. And that's what God's trying to do for us, is to build us up, but wants us to build us up. It's not like he's just going to it's not going to be like our cell phone where we have an update, and we have to let the phone, reset and do all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's like, it doesn't work in our head where it's like, all right, God, all right, I got everything now. It's like, no, it's just, you have to work at it. But that's the main thing. You have to work at it. You can't just be like, I give up. because that's not working. That's just letting go. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it definitely, I'm starting to see it from my own perspective, that the life that we have now, it's like a prerequisite for whatever's coming next. Like, I remember growing up thinking, and I don't know, I have to do some more of my own like research and see kind of like what I find. But I remember growing up thinking, like, everybody always preaches like heaven's like this end state, like, oh, you made it, like you get to relax, like all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm actually like, I don't necessarily think that that's true anymore. Like, I think that everything you go through here is kind of like a prerequisite to what you're going to be able to do with whatever is next. So like everybody's focusing on kicking their feet up in the afterlife. And I think like this is actually the easy part. Like, I don't know what's coming up next. Like I could be wrong. Like, I mean, I think we might be able to handle it more with ease, but I completely think this is like the forging of whatever's supposed to come next.
And that's the thing. That's the thing about it too. It's the unknowing, and that's kind of the exciting part, because it's like, what do you expect? It's the exciting part about it. It's like you could dream and draw and write and think like, oh, it's gonna be like this, could be like that. It's like, I mean, heck, I even remember being like in, middle school and liking a girl, and like in my head, I'm like, we're gonna date, we're gonna hold hands, could be like this, and that, and it never happened. And I'm like, but I mean, but it's the power of imagination, and that's the cool part. It's like, who knows what's gonna happen, but at least during this time while we're here, to make the best of it and try to create those good times. Even if there's hard times, there's always going to be good times too.
So I actually heard another quote the other day that made me think of you. So I'm going through it right now. So they talk about like writer's block. And earlier this year, and I remember our friend Jacob told me too, he's like, you're going to hit a wall. He's like, just be ready. He was like, you're producing a lot of stuff. You've got a lot of things coming out. Like, your trajectory of like improvement is going way up. And he's like, but it's not sustainable. You're going to hit a wall.
Yeah.
And I knew he was right.
Yeah.
I just wasn't ready to hit that wall.
Yeah.
And so I've hit it. But I've heard a lot of different people, like whether I was reading, I think The War of Art. That's what it is. Yeah. The War of Art. And then I've heard multiple different artists talk about it, but they'll talk about how you are not in control of your art. Your art controls you.
Mm.
And I also heard, I was listening to I think it was a sermon from Transformation Church, and I think it was Charles Metcalf who was speaking, but he actually talked about how that's right. Like, he talks about how people don't think that they're creatives. There's certain people in the world that don't think they're creatives. And he's like, if everybody is created in an image of like the ultimate creator, he was like, everybody, it might look different, but everybody has creativity in them. It's in there.
It's true. Yeah.
It's just trying to find it. But one of the things that he had said too was, the thing is with your creativity, he's like, you're not the artist. And I was like, he was like, the thing is, he's like, God's the artist. He's like, you're the instruments, and your talents are basically the paint in which he uses to create the picture. Yeah.
Accurate as heck. So, yeah.
And I've noticed that too, because especially like and I've had to look at things a lot like this last week. Like, I know I've not really talked to you as much either. I've not been on social media as much. I really kind of had to shut some of that down.
It's good though. Sometimes a little detox is nice from social media. So
yeah, but it's just like there's so much of like this transition phase going on right now in my life, with like a couple new jobs that I'm going into, and trying to take the leap from something that is slightly more certain to something that is a lot more, like I'm my own business. Like, I work under another company's umbrella, but ultimately it's like I'm another contractor within that company. So so I kind of had to take a step back and get quiet. But yeah, I noticed even with posing, like used to, I would go to pose and it came easy, and I'm sure that you're probably going to be able to relate to this with writing, but it would come really easy. Things would just hit.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff would just kind of came together. It really seemed effortless. Like literally it could be brushing my teeth and come up with something and it actually looked really, really good.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just not there right now. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And going back and forth between what I heard 𝗖𝗔𝗩𝗘 say and then what I heard this bishop talking about was, again, he was like bringing it back to pride. And it's like, you know, trying to pretend that I'm the one that's the artist. And my pride is now making it about me and what can I do and what can I produce for my own reputation. And he was like, you know, he was like, things that come freely is like when you're truly present and in the moment and there's no like ulterior motive. He's like, you're doing it just to do, like you're being just for the sake of being.
Yeah.
And I think now it's like, I'm trying to find a way back to that, because when I was going through that, that's how it was. It was like effortless. There wasn't any other motives. There was nothing attached to it. I wasn't expecting anything of it.
Yeah.
I was just going out, expressing myself, having fun, and then hoping whoever saw it, like maybe they'd enjoy it, maybe they didn't, but like it wasn't the focal point.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, like kind of tying those two things together, I think sometimes our pride gets in the way. Because one, we think we can completely control some of the stuff that we come up with. In reality, you don't really control your art. Like I'm really starting to see how that's actually a thing. And then how your pride and motives can also add this pressure and anxiety, and it actually doesn't help the creative process whatsoever.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I understand not just from like writer's block, but just creating in general, you know. For a long time, I used to create custom action figures just for fun. It was just my own thing, and I did really well, and I shared it with forums growing up. You know, and people started wanting to buy them. Like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, you should do it on eBay. And so I would just start like kind of creating stuff and seeing like, wow, this toy that I just made sold for $150. You know, and then you start seeing these people like bidding, and you're like, wow, $400 for a toy that I made. Then you start to get in that spot where like, okay, I guess I am pretty good. And then you start trying to create better. And then you're not seeing those numbers come in, and you start to be like, what the heck? I'm so good. Why am I not, you know? And it's just like, I had to pull a step back. Like, you know, it's not goes in waves. So I say with writing, you know, like I sometimes I could wake up and I'll just read something and I'll see a word, and I keep a notes thing on my phone, and I also keep like a little pen and paper with me, because sometimes like I'll just hear somebody say like a certain word, like somebody could just say like dichotomy. I'm like, oh, I like that word, and then my brain just goes.
What can I do with this?
And I can just like write up a poem within like 5 to 10 minutes. Or people are like, how long did it take you to write that? Like 5 minutes. Like, I was like, yeah, I was just drinking my coffee in the morning and creating it, you know, or like photography, images, things like that. Like sometimes it just kind of clicks. If I try to force it, it doesn't work. It just doesn't happen. It has to happen organically. And so, I mean, I've taken some time as far as like, I'll share stories and stuff here and there, but for like posts, like I just want to keep working on me. You know, it's like I don't always need to be there all the time and sharing and this and that, because I'm like, you know, there's something about mystery too. I mean, there was times where I didn't share anything or post anything for like 6+ months, and everybody thought I was dead. I was like, I'm not dead. I'm not there. But I had to get through, you know, my stuff with, you know, getting myself cleaned up, sober, and just trying to find me again, find happiness, you know, and feeling more confident within my appearance from, you know, getting back into training back in May and just doing whatever I can. I feel more happy, but I don't need validation from people online to make me feel good about myself. It's about me doing stuff for myself and being happy with everyday life. Yeah, it's nice, you know, sure, we can like the likes or the follows and all that stuff, but that's just temporary. That's not a forever thing. You know, you're not really building yourself up because you're so focused on what everybody else is thinking that you're like, oh, and it becomes a pride thing. So it's good for myself to even like pull back and be like, all right, because, you know, there's times where I just get like, whoa, this is awesome. But in the end, I'm like, is it? You know, I'd rather spend time with people and just enjoy laughing and joking around more than just looking at my phone, seeing how many comments I had and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. No, it was kind of nice. I actually had a little bit of a wake up yesterday. So, as you know, I started officially posing coaching, and we're working on getting like the website portion for me and stuff up, so that way people can go straight from my Instagram and sign in. So, like here in like the next week, my Instagram's about to change to where I'll have a link tree, but it's to like different coaching services. Also have like my apparel on there, probably this podcast, but a lot of changes that needed to happen. But there was a potential that I could be doing a routine for somebody. And I remember being down for a second, because she didn't want me to do it. And I'm thinking, you know what, like this makes sense. Like this is somebody that is getting ready to have their first pro show. It's a big deal. And I mean, honestly, like it doesn't matter like who I've worked with so far. Like I'm not known enough in the sport for people to be like, oh, I want her to do my routine for me or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I realized, like, you know, I'm going to have to put some work forward first and show people like, hey, you know, I can do this. I am capable of this. And again, I got sucked into that. And it was like I was trying so hard and I was overthinking it and I couldn't do it. And like I couldn't pull something out that normally, like it was even a song that I really, really liked and I could really feel the lyrics. And usually if it's something like that, you know, things will kind of click. And it was just in my head and overthinking it. But then something cool happened. Is I remember praying earlier that morning, you know, like when I get in my head, for God to help me find a way out of it. And there was this girl that had walked into the gym and she had clear heels on. And I'm thinking, oh, I know what she's about to do. Like there's only one reason why anybody would have heels that look just like that. And she's getting ready for a figure show. So I got kind of quiet for a little bit and watched her. And then eventually I just asked. And very quickly that transformed from me trying to be focused on proving myself that like I deserve, you know, for people, or like people can use like my routines that I make and blah, 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 blah. Like just this very selfish way of kind of looking at it.
Yeah.
And then I realized like it quickly shifted my mind and showed me what it was. Like I ended up spending some time with her. There was another girl that she was friends with that came in, and you know, they were figure competitors. I spent 3 years doing that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, like, do you guys want some help? You know, like I don't have anything else to do this evening. And, you know, this is what I want to do. Like I actually posing coach. And they're like, yeah, like we'll take all the help we can get.
That's awesome.
And it was like, by doing that, I remembered, you know, even with posing coaching, like even the routines, it's not about it being my routine presented by somebody else on stage. It's about me helping somebody to perform better, to feel better about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. It's just so funny how it's like our self just comes back all the time. Like it's this constant battle of having to fight that.
Yeah. You know, we'll always have a fight within ourselves because we're with us the most.
Yeah.
But it's great when you can be able to help somebody or somebody's with the knowledge that you have, and you know, because they were just trying to do their own thing and you just kind of shared a little bit and they accepted, and that's a good feeling because it's you're letting go of that self and you're trying to help others, you know, and it's kind of like with what I like to share and stuff too with people, you know, because my poetry that I write, you know, it's not just for me. I do look back at my poetry though for self, to remind myself what I went through then and like how did I change things to be in that not spotlight but light, because a lot of my stuff is about coming out of darkness and going into light. But I've had a lot of people message me or email me thanking me for my poetry, like, dude, you have no idea how much I needed to read that today. It's not about my image, it's not about my look or how I'm dressed in the photo. It's about, my thing is just the caption, you know, because my poetry, I share it because even if one person is affected by it and they makes them feel a little better, then that's awesome. If there's thousands, cool. You know, but at the same time, it's like, it's a partial reminder to myself because I like to look back at it. But if somebody stumbles upon it, it's like, wow, this is great. That really helped me through, or your poetry really, it's like, so it's kind of sharing without actually being physically with that person like you were with those girls, but another way.
Yeah.
It's an awesome thing, because then you're just like, that's what I like about it, because it makes me happy when people do, respond to it in such a positive way and just thanking me for, the life that I've gone through, and to be willing to share so much of it, because I'm like, well, people shouldn't feel alone. There's a lot of people out there who feel alone, trying to battle their drinking or their pill addiction, or could be anything. And they just feel like nobody will understand. No, they want somebody to reach out, but they don't want people to know that they have it, so they don't have the help. That's where I'm just like, I've lived it, and we've all lived something, and we all have similarities, and we all have gifts, and we all have some sort of way to be artistic, and so it's just one of my venues and one of my passions, but it's nice when you can realize that it's not just about yourself. So,
Yeah.
it's easy, like as you said, to get caught up in your head, because I know I do. I'm not caught up in my head, I'm caught up in my beard, and I think my beard's bigger than my head now, so I have to just kind of scurry along. What's that? I was kidding. So,
Yeah.
I think I'm back. I think my phone is like backwards, because I'm like, I keep seeing my little image, but like my scar on my left side, I don't know. I always get confused with the flip camera. So.
Yeah, I try not to even. It's definitely backwards, because if I look at it this way, it's like a mirror reflection.
Oh, okay. Because like me seeing you, your hair is normal. Like, so I don't know. Like your shaved head or side is on the normal side. So maybe it's just how the camera is for ourselves. I don't know. Enough about self and selfies. So,
Selfies.
But
Wow.
yeah, it's good. I enjoyed this. I was glad that I was able to check my phone, because I thought it was at 10. So I was like, oh, I got time. And then you're like, dude, I'm like, oh, shoot. Let me throw a shirt on real quick. So
yeah, everything's been kind of responsive, because like I said, like last week I had my call and it was 11 to 1. So it was like, well, perfect. And I do podcast 10, it'll roll in 11, 1 o'clock. And then I got a message and it was like, well, we're doing 10 to 12. And it's like,
okay, well, that's fun. I'm just
right.
hoping they either get the water working in the area again, or they at least open the pool so I can feel somewhat non-sticky. So, but yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I worked out. I was like, really? There was not even enough water pressure to take for the shower to turn on. It was like glink, glink,
Full
glink.
trickle.
I was
Oh,
like, oh man. So
that's horrible.
it'll be all right. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, it'll happen when it happens. Just like, such is life. It's just
Yeah.
crazy, But
I mean, you don't
well,
have water to shower, but I guess at least we have water to drink right now. That's more than some people can say.
amen to that. I'm very blessed, and that's my mom always reminds me of that. Not me personally, just with helping her with her media and stuff like that. It's just seeing some of the images and people like just like in Afghanistan and other countries that she helps out. Like, they don't have anything. We're blessed. I mean, like I have a just like your apartment. It's like I have a pool over there. I'm blessed I can go in that. There's people who have like ponds that they get their water from, and there's garbage in it. And that's the only way they get drinking water. And it's just like, it's painful.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're blessed to be in America. We're blessed to have a life and to have things that people wish they could have at some point in their life that they'll probably never have. So, gotta stop reflecting and getting in our head about all the bad things, and just be more open and remembering there's other people dealing with a lot of stuff. I don't know. Like today, I woke up. Somebody maybe didn't do that. Somebody lost a family member. They're able to walk to and from. There's somebody who I was born without legs who wish they could walk. So it's just like trying to remember those things. Being able to see, but somebody was born blind, wishing they knew what things were. But as long as they have a good perspective, like I've met people who were blind from birth, and they were happy as heck. Like, vibing, dude, just listen to music. It sounds way cooler because I'm blind, so I can hear it way better than you. I was like, probably. So, but just to meet people who can be so positive, it's good because we need to remember when we're in our own little mental fog to find ways to be positive.
Yeah.
Reminds me of like just finding more, just ways to be positive, or just little things to write down, or just like what I learned when I was in the mental health hospitals and stuff like that, just coping mechanisms. And it's not you're so much coping as it is you're just trying to help yourself. So
yeah, it's like navigation techniques.
Exactly. So, and I hope you're feeling better. I know you said you weren't feeling all that well, but
yeah, I took some Dramamine. I thought I was going to throw up, so I took a couple Dramamine pills. I don't know what's up with that this morning, but it's going away a little bit. So I think I'm probably going to rest just a little bit before I jump on this work call and then see how I feel. But
I was glad to partake with this. It was fun.
Yeah.
I forget that we can do. I was like, are we doing that here? Like I'm trying to be quiet because roommate's sleeping in the next room. But I'm like, I don't know. Like I did my Zoom interview yesterday outside on the back deck, and of course when I'm doing it, and I have my headphones in. Of course, when I'm doing it, the guy that's mowing the lawns and weed whacking is like right below me, like oh my god. So I was just like, I can't win. So, but it's fine. But yeah, I'll just rest and all that stuff. I was glad to be a part of this. I don't know. Is there people on asking questions like last time, or is it different? Like I feel confused, but that's usually me because I'm just always usually confused. So.
No, I don't see any like questions or really comments today. We had one. I responded to it, but it wasn't a question. It was more of a like, hi.
Oh. Okay.
So.
Hi. All right. Well, that's fine. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm glad to be a part of this. Hopefully, can do this again soon and get some more topics and stuff. But I always feel like anything that's revolving kind of around mental health, depression, things like that, I tend to do pretty well with it because I'm pretty experienced. So, but if it helps somebody, even if just one person watches it, cool. So, but it helped me. I feel way better just from having the conversation. So,
it's usually how it works.
That's right. WAP 2.
All right, dude. You have a good day. I will talk to you later.
All right. Sounds good. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.